Welcome back to CBS This Morning. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is apologizing to Indigenous Canadians after the remains of more than 200 Indigenous children were found last week. Some were as young as 3. Many from Indigenous communities gathered this week to honor the lives lost. The remains were discovered in Kamloops, British Columbia, at what was once Canada's largest residential school for Indigenous children. Our national correspondent Jerika Duncan spoke with a survivor. Jerika, good morning.
Good morning. This is such a dark chapter of history for Canada that needs to be told. The Kamloops Indian Residential School in British Columbia used to have at least 51 confirmed deaths on its official record. Well, sadly, one survivor told us he was not surprised to find out at least 215 more students were found buried there.
Sometimes kids would not show up in classroom. They would disappear for the next day, and we knew that they were gone, but we didn't know where they were gone.
Gary Gottfriedson is a survivor of the Kamloops Indian Residential School. He's among the thousands of Indigenous peoples legally mandated by the Canadian government to attend such institutions. They were set up in the late 1800s and often operated by the Catholic Church.
A disturbing discovery in Ireland. A mass grave of children has been found at a site that was once a Catholic orphanage. 3 years ago, a local historian investigated and found death certificates for nearly 800 children who died at the orphanage from 1925 to 1961. This week, forensics officials confirmed those findings. Nuns ran the home where thousands of unmarried mothers were forced to stay as punishment. Many of the women were able to leave after serving their time. Their children were left behind.
Now to Canada, where horrors from a different era have returned to haunt the country. Another mass grave of children has been unearthed, school children. And this is the third one since May. 182 unmarked graves have been found in British Columbia. More than 1,000 mass graves have been found in Canada. The findings have led to an angry backlash. But neither the Justin Trudeau government nor the Catholic Church wants to take responsibility.
That as a parent and as a patriot, I'm absolutely outraged by what we're allowing to happen to our children.
But then at some point, I was invited, which is why I'm telling you all this, to participate in sacrifices. Children.
She's had to endure.
And us kids would be made to do things with the adults and the animals, and then a sacrifice would happen.
The sacrifice? Were these animal sacrifices?
Animals and people.
On what scale do you think this was happening?
Enormous. Far beyond what we've ever heard of here before.
Teresa's mother, Bridget.
You're talking about mass murder?
Yes. On a scale that this country's never heard of before.
How many men or how many people would have sex with you?
What, at one time?
Yes.
But everyone who was there, which must have been about 20, you know, from 10 to 20 people. If it was a big ceremony, it used to be 30.
This really happened? You're quite sure of that?
Yeah.
The excrement in urine where there was talk of human sacrifice.
That killing the people made him happy.
Sacrifices to please the devil. According to Teresa, the worst rituals took place at a house, somewhere in the country.
It was big, you know, expensive. From the front, it looked like a castle. There was a tramp who was brought in once, you know, and he was killed. He was cut from his throat down to his stomach. And they ate him, or bits of him.
They killed a man at a ceremony?
Yeah.
In front of you?
Yeah, in front of all of us. He started screaming when they began to cut. But after a while, you know, he died. I'd seen a few killings before then. Although I wasn't used to it, you know, that was the worst one.
Let me get this right now. Are you saying that you saw more than one person killed in that house?
Yeah. I've seen loads of babies, killed there, just newborn babies, or aborted ones which were only small. You know, 4-year-olds. Any age, really.
Parents, police.
What about the teachers at school? Who's the main one?
Papa, Mr. Hollins, Mrs. Forsyth.
Who's Mrs. Forsyth?
She's the head teacher of our school.
And what does she do?
And she does sex. She got a big belly with a big tattoo on her pride.
And what happens in the church?
And we do baby sacrifice and eat the baby.
What do you mean sacrifice and eat the baby?
So we kill the baby and eat it and drink the blood from it.
Is that true, Gabriel?
Yes. And we dance with the skulls.
You what?
We dance with the skulls in the church.
What skulls?
The skulls of the baby.
Pardon?
The skulls of the baby.
You dance with the baby skulls?
Yes.
And who kills the baby?
Papa, me, and Lisa. And so,
Who kills the babies?
Papa.
And what, he gets you to help him?
Yes.
What happened to the pregnancies, to the babies?
They were aborted by my nan or by one of the doctors at the house.
There were doctors there at that house?
Yeah, there was 2, I think. Yeah, and a nurse.
What would happen to the fetuses, the unborn babies?
They used to be taken away most of the time, and one time baby was taken out of me and then killed in front of me because it was still alive.
And then, what would happen?
Well, after they killed it, they would eat it. But we were also made to eat it.
You were made to eat your own fetus?
Yeah.
Who made you do this?
My nan.
She said to me it was something that everybody did. She thought, you know, like you don't like going to school or the dentist, you don't like going to the black masses.
It was never any different. I didn't have nothing to compare it to.
All part of life.
Teresa's story, her account, doesn't really surprise you.
It doesn't surprise me in the light of satanic abuse, no.
Do you get frustrated with people who just won't accept that these things do happen?
Yes, because I've worked with murderers in prisons for years. Not that long ago, a boy was found in a forest in southern England without a head. We have no doubts that men can do that. And yet when we start talking about men within Satanism who actually believe in evil and it's the right to express evil, we suddenly have a doubt.
A 4-part massive documentary series on the worldwide child sex trafficking ring that brings in $34 billion a year in revenue. $34 billion in revenue. Just for a frame of reference, the airline industry this year, it's bounced back. It's on pace to do $22 billion in revenue this year. 22. That's all airline companies combined. Child sex trafficking is more profitable than the airline industry. A war correspondent has been covering this for us, doing an amazing job at the border and in Panama at the Darien Gap, because there's huge money, big money, $34 billion in money, basically trafficking, no birth certificates, no records. They are perfect for sex trafficking. So this is happening in the United States. The United States, the biggest purveyor of this, one of the biggest purveyors of this. Here is former CIA agent explaining exactly how all of this works and why it's so profitable and basically untraceable.
These children are not just kidnapped and in some cases bred by families as a cash crop. We have people in the United States of America that breed children in order to sell them. And when they are sold, they come without birth certificates, which means it's easier to kill them and have no one ask where they are. We're also importing children by the plane load.
We took their babies and we gifted them, or we sold them, or we trafficked them to the point of their disappearance from our hearts and from our sight, from our country, and in the case of Tuam, possibly other places, from life itself.
Six years on from the discovery of 800 babies' bodies in sewage tanks under a former mother and baby home in the Irish town of Tuam, and a state commission to investigate what really happened still has yet to report. But Tuam seems to be the tip of the iceberg. This is Sean Ross Abbey. Like all such homes, women who'd become pregnant out of marriage were ordered to come here.
Oh, God, it's huge.
This is your first impression when you walk in.
It's like a stately home.
And surrender their babies to the nuns for adoption, while they were made to work in the laundries as a punishment for their sins.
Turned over the sod and I just noticed lots of small bones.
The nuns claim 269 babies died here, the last in 1994. Yet official records say the actual figure is over 1,000. So where are they? We've established the existence of a burial pit for unbaptised children whose deaths aren't recorded anywhere, and it's believed a sewage tank has been laid in the Angels plot as well. It's an echo of what happened at Tuam. At another home, Bessborough, a confidential Irish Health Service document showed just how many infants died in the care of the nuns. In 1 year, the death rate was 82%. 900 babies died here, yet only 64 are recorded. The nuns say they can't remember where the rest are, but this official map suggests the existence of a children's burial plot right here. You can see the indentations from the air.
I don't believe for 1 second they don't know where the burial grounds are, and I don't believe for 1 second that they don't have full records of everything that happened in those places.
We came across a workman who'd been asked to dig up the site right next to where the graves appear to be.
Are you worried about taking here?
He had no way of knowing, but for the relatives of those who died here, it amounts to tampering with a potential crime scene.
Just so you know, it's an area under question.
For the relatives, the idea that the remains of thousands of children are scattered around Ireland shouldn't really be a matter for a civil commission of inquiry at all. It should be something for these people, the police.
There were 14 mother and baby homes in Ireland. Our investigation has raised concerns about a number of them, but by no means all. The Irish State Commission has an opportunity to reveal the truth about what happened throughout the 20th century, with all the implicit criticism of the role of the Catholic Church in society. Whether it will remains an open question until it decides to release its own findings.
I just want to say that I'm so sorry. So many people are getting attacked. The children. They don't understand. I'm so sorry. I wish I could do something, but I can't. I don't know what to do. I'll try everything, I promise.
Wait a minute. Not only did you punch this girl in the face, but you also says that they should kill foster kids because nobody wants them? This bitch is crazy. Okay, all right. This is the whole thing.
You don't get to kill the baby just because their dad didn't want them. You can. Should we kill the kids in foster care? Why not? Why not, if that's the case? We should kill the kids in foster care that aren't wanted? Who's going to take care of them? I need to know the percentage of people who take children from foster care and abuse them and molest them, who make them like personal slaves. Having a child. Yeah, well, I'm not the one who admitted they would be okay with killing babies in foster care and killing children that have been abused. That's not the point. What I'm saying. That's really.
And that rifle is there to defend those young daughters that might be taken to a party somewhere, which is a story that I've heard over and fucking over again.
Taken to a party?
Cartel guys showing up to a ranch say, hey, we're going to take some of your daughters to this party, we'll bring them back. And they're the guys that have guns. You have nothing because the government says that you shouldn't have a gun because somehow you having a gun fosters organized crime. So the daughters never show up. And that's a story that I've heard many times. Some of these,
I haven't heard shit about this.
Well, some of them go into a town and say like, hey, I like her and her, but she's 14. Doesn't matter. We don't hear about that, you know? Why are there so many women being murdered in Mexico? Is it just because we have a proliferation of serial killers that are targeting women? Or is it because there's a weird social thing among some criminal organizations where women are being utilized as resources, and once they're done?
Archbishop, you knew it was a crime for an adult to engage in sex with a kid.
I'm not sure whether I knew it was a crime or not. I understand today it's a crime.
When did you first discern that it was a crime for an adult to engage in sex with a kid?
I don't remember.
When did you first discern that it was a crime for a priest to engage in sex with a kid who he had under his control?
I don't remember that either.
Why is there a demon rising from hell in the Pope's audience hall? Okay?
And there's the head right there. It looks like an alligator man or some kind of demon head. Okay, so if you Google Catholic Church sex abuse cases, one of the very first websites that comes up is Wikipedia. And here's the top printout of the Wikipedia page. If you actually tried to print this out, if you actually tried to print out the sex abuse cases in the Wikipedia library, it would take you an entire box of paper. There's so much information here. Okay, so literally thousands, over 3,000 verified and confirmed, with untold countless more cases of pedophile priests from all over the globe. No one is talking about this. You have to ask why. Keep reading, it gets even deeper. Okay, so there's sex abuse happening in the Catholic Church all over the world. Thousands upon thousands of priests molesting countless children, countless amounts of children. Okay, so here we go. Catholic Church cover-up. 300 priests sexually abused 1,000 children in Pennsylvania. This is a CBS article from November last year.
Begin here with what appears to be the largest abuse scandal to shake the American Catholic Church yet. After a 2-year investigation, a Pennsylvania grand jury today alleged decades of abuse of children by more than 300 men described as predator priests. It detailed the accounts of more than 1,000 children, but said there are likely thousands more victims. And the report says church leaders protected the priests in a cover-up that went all the way to the Vatican. Nikki Batiste is in Harrisburg.
Priests were raping little boys and girls, and the men of God who were responsible for them not only did nothing, they hid it all. For decades.
Okay, and this is an archdiocese reveals 57 alleged child sexual abusers, and that's the Archdiocese of New Orleans. And there's thousands more priests that were accused but never charged. The children that were abused, they never came forward and actually officially charged the priests, so there's a lot of cases that they can't really prosecute because the key witnesses won't come forward. Okay? High-ranking Vatican official releases statement implicating Pope Francis in sexual abuse. Okay, the pedophilia in the Catholic Church goes all the way up to the Pope. The implications of a worldwide pedophilia network disguised as a benevolent organization to take in children and manage orphanages where children have no protection from family. What could they be doing with the children? Okay. Illinois Attorney General says Catholic Church failed to disclose abuse accusations against 500 priests and clergy. Okay. This is an article from CNN. And this came out within the last year. Today is Easter 2019. Okay, here's a quote from Hitler. "We tolerate no one in our ranks who attacks the ideas of Christianity. Our movement is Christian." Adolf Hitler, October 27th, 1928. Okay, Hitler and the Nazis were tightly intertwined with the Catholic Church and the Vatican. The Nazis had the blessings of the Catholic Church, and the Vatican even had its own militia that exterminated millions of people in the Yugoslavian Holocaust. Google it.
Today I want to concentrate on 2 books for the purpose of my little documentation. The first book, of course, is Hitler's Pope, a very well-known book, written by the very distinguished journalist John Cornwell, Cardinal Aloysius Stepanek, in what is now the country called Yugoslavia. But I want to look at the role of Archbishop Stepanek. The Roman Catholic Church had decided would be the role for the Catholic Church in Yugoslavia when Hitler was on his wave, But what they were saying is that Pavelic, the man who was Hitler's sort of appointee for there, and did it very willingly too, would destroy anyone who refused to be converted to Roman Catholicism. I'm going to put that to one side because I want to turn to this little book here, Smokescreen. Now this came out in 1983, very controversial book. It certainly looks at the whole role of the Roman Catholic Church. But I want to show you some very disturbing pictures now. And I hope you won't find these too gruesome because they're pretty horrific. And you may want to look away and just listen to what we're going to say here. Right, we go to page 25. And there we see the usual suspects of Europe at that time. Hitler, Mussolini, and of course Franco. This gentleman here, Sten Kukavichkia, is a Franciscan monk, also seen in the uniform of the Ustashi. Now the Ustashi were like the Gestapo and the SS all rolled into one. Anyone who wasn't a Catholic and didn't have a little passport or a little paper document stamped by the hierarchy of Yugoslavia fell foul of these guys. And there you can see him there in his monk's robes, and there you see him there in his uniform. The Ustashi. It looks like he's holding a Kalashnikov rifle there. But to turn the page over, we get a little bit of picture there of what was going on at that time in the Ustashi state of Croatia. Now, the first picture, you can see Anto Pavelic. Can you see the gentleman there under the candelabra there? Head of the Ustashi state of Croatia, surrounded by Croatian Catholic clergy in April 1942. And he was to Yugoslavia what Hitler was to Germany. Those who are on the side of the Croats and the Catholic Church love the guy. Very, very popular. And there you can see him further down there. The bishops and Archbishop of Croatia gave full support to the Ustashi. Here the Croatian bishops and the Archbishop are seen pictured then Pavelic during one of their frequent conferences with him. They were very much with this guy to get people converted. Interesting picture here. Nuns marching together with Croatian National Legionnaires, the Ustashi. Does it look frightening? They look like something out of KKK. These pointed, can you see them there? Marching behind these murderers who are going to take on the Orthodox and the Muslims and anyone else who didn't go along what this monster had to say. There he is again. Among Croatian nuns, can you see the good ladies there? They were decorated by Pavelic for their heroic Ustashi deeds. They were probably the local Stasi who reported anybody who wasn't going along with the official line to be converted. And I turn the page over and we come to some of the atrocities. Here's a Ustashi with a sadistic smile on his face. Can you see that? Chopping off a man's head with an axe. Can you see that? Can you see that? And later on we're going to see that man's head, I suspect. And this photograph of Ustashi taken in Bosnia in 1943 before they executed their victim. A priest named Ivan Ragovic repeatedly urged the killing of all Serbs, including children, so that, quote, not even the seeds of the beasts are left. This is a Roman Catholic priest. And we come over here to one of the most disgusting pictures here on page 31. Here you see the Ustashi carrying the head of a Serbian or Orthodox priest. Can you see that? This gentleman's probably been beaten up. He's probably had his fingernails torn out. He's probably been sexually raped, possibly with a rifle and so forth. And there's his head held up there. Here's a Franciscan monk, Flipovic, left as a priest wearing his cassock and in his Ustashi uniform. Flipovic was the commandant of the concentration camp at Jasenovac. And here's some of the corpses of the children there. Can you see them starved to death in this disgusting, vile camp? Now, we all know that Europe was a terrible place in those awful periods. But here you had this open courtship between the Church in Rome, the hierarchy in Yugoslavia, with Pavelic. And there's some horrific stories here. I'll just pick out a few of them. It says at Dubrovnik, Dalmatia fascist soldiers had photographs of an Ustashia wearing two necklaces. One was a string of cut-out eyes, the other of torn-out tongues of murdering Orthodox Serbs. And this is what they did. In the camp, we're told here, the Ustashi arrested one whole Serbian family consisting of father, mother and 4 children. The mother and the children were separated from the father. For 7 days they were tortured by starvation and thirst. Then they brought the mother and children a good-sized roast and plenty of water to drink. These unfortunate were so hungry that they ate the entire roast. After they had finished, the Ustashi told them that they had eaten the flesh of their father. Now, my beef is that Stepanak, blessed Aloysius as he is called, this man, Stepanak, wasn't singing his heart out. He was betraying hundreds of thousands of innocent Serbs who didn't want to become Roman Catholic. They had no intention of becoming Roman Catholic. And because they didn't become Roman Catholic, they were tracked down, tortured, brutally subjected to physical torture and so forth, and placed in concentration camps. Pius XII and Stepanak had agreed between them to work together. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't think this man Stepanak is worthy to be called blessed.
4 million Yugoslavians lost their lives from militias that were controlled by the Catholic Church. This was at the same time that the Nazis were exterminating the Jews. And nobody talks about the Yugoslavian Holocaust that was primarily run by the Catholic Church. Like, literally nobody talks about it. Okay, Vatican cops bust drug fuel gay orgy at the home of Cardinal Zaid. This is in the Vatican. And there's a lot of reports of drugs in the Vatican, homosexuality, gay orgies, you name it. This is an article, I think this article is from the New York Post.
So when they then, in the evening, they go in a dark black mass, they liberate themselves. So they start doing cocaine, doing all kinds of things that they were not supposed to do. Yeah. Just last week, they have discovered a cocaine expedition going to the Vatican, a packet of cocaine that was destined to a Vatican citizen.
Okay, but you can Google all of these and you'll find them on Google. Red Cross and the Vatican helped thousands of Nazis escape. The Nazis that escaped Germany after World War II came to America in Project Paperclip.
Talking about the Fourth Reich, which is the name of a book that Jim Marrs has written, and it's all about how the United States brought the Nazi scientists over in Paperclip, and that they started the secret space program. And the part that is in the general public is, of course, Los Alamos, you know, and the nuclear bombs and so on and so forth. But it went much far beyond that.
The Nazis that escaped Germany after World War II came to America in Project Paperclip and created the CIA. They are now in control of the entire planet. They control the government, the media, the banking, education, corporate, oil, and the churches and secret societies, like the Illuminati, Skull and Bones, and Freemasons. We saw nuns kill kids. Nuns at the Vermont Catholic Orphanage accused of sexual abuse, child torture, and forcing kids to kiss corpses. Obviously, some very terrible conditions in Catholic orphanages.
It's interesting that you were Catholic, because what we've seen in the last 10 or 20 years maybe is a lot of dark secrets coming out about what is going on, especially in the Vatican. And
they're far more darker yet than you know.
Really?
Far more darker than you even suspect.
Could you please start going into that,
well,
that alley?
I don't think that's very safe for me doing that.
That mystery at the Vatican. What happened to that 15-year-old daughter of a Vatican worker who vanished? A tip led her family and authorities to a Vatican City property. And today, thousands of unmarked bones were recovered underground. ABC's Will Reeve is at the Vatican.
Tonight, new clues in the mysterious disappearance of a teenage Italian girl.
Numero così enorme.
A forensics expert saying thousands of bones found, perhaps belonging to dozens of people, all underneath a Vatican college. Those experts now working to determine if the bones could also include those of Emanuela Orlandi at just 15. Orlandi's family believes the Vatican has not revealed everything it knows. Just days ago, acting on a tip, investigators opened the tomb of 2 German princesses, but found nothing. It was completely empty. But in the process, Vatican officials found remains nearby. The big question tonight, whose bones are these? Orlandi family supporters vowing tonight they will not be satisfied until there are answers.
Why is this important?
The Vatican needs to make their files public. The truth needs to come out.
The Vatican has long insisted it had nothing to do with the disappearance of Emanuela Orlandi, but if these bones turn out to be her, it faces a difficult task in explaining how they got there in an area off limits to the public. Tom?
Will Reeve reporting from Vatican City tonight. Will, thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News.
Okay, here's an article from the Daily Mail. Mass graves are found in disguised sewers at a former Catholic home for unmarried mothers in Ireland. So they found grave sites in disguised sewers, thousands of children buried in disguised sewers in a Catholic orphanage in Ireland. And this is only one of 13 other orphanages where it is known that there's countless amounts of children that have gone missing from these orphanages. Okay, so in this particular orphanage in Tom, I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce it, in Ireland, there was over 800 children officially declared missing, and they found thousands of dead children in disguised sewers. And the area where they found these children, they literally covered it up with a foot of gravel so nobody can bury down and find out exactly how far down it goes, and possibly if there's any other tunnels down there, and possibly where these tunnels lead to. Okay, now in the other orphanages in Ireland, there is actual members of parliament in parliament saying that there's countless missing children from the Irish orphanages and they have no idea where they went. In fact, they even say that some of the children were sold and they don't know who they were sold to. They say some of the children might have been shipped off to America, that they have definitely been shipped off, and that nobody has any idea where they went, okay?
We took their babies and we gifted them, or we sold them, or we trafficked them to the point of their disappearance from our hearts and from our sight, from our country, and in the case of Tuam, and possibly other places, from life itself.
You're talking thousands and thousands of children harvested from Catholic orphanages, and this has been happening through all the Catholic orphanages around the world for centuries, literally centuries. Children have been going missing from these orphanages. Nobody knows where they go, okay? And here is just one little example of evidence creeping to the surface of massive graves are found, massive graves of children, babies and children's bodies are found in disguised sewers in a Catholic orphanage in Ireland. And that's one of 13 other orphanages that it's known that there's thousands upon thousands and thousands of missing children. And that's just one of the many, many, many orphanages that exist. The CIA and the Vatican intelligence apparatus. The CIA and the Vatican have been working behind the scenes for decades. You think that when you confess to a priest, he keeps your secrets? Nope. They record everything from the people who confess and they use it to blackmail people they want to control. Okay? The CIA was created from the Nazis that escaped Europe through the Vatican. They are all connected and they are working in secret to take over the world and turn us all into slaves. All right, so the CIA and the Vatican apparatus are part of a giant secret network that is infiltrating and controlling humanity. Okay? The Great Scandal, Christianity's role in the rise of Nazis. All right, and here you can see some high priests in the Vatican with Nazis doing the Nazi salute. Notice the high priest performing the Nazi salute with the Nazis. What you probably didn't know is that the Holocaust was coordinated effort. Keep reading. This planet is in a lot of trouble, and you need to know the truth about what is happening on this planet. The statue that is supposedly Jesus Christ that the Pope sits in front of in the Pope's audience hall looks like a half man, half demon, okay? There's the Pope right there. This is the statue that's right behind him at the Pope's audience hall. You see how it kind of looks like an alligator head, okay? And they even have right here, they joke about the Pope being an alligator man in cartoons and comics. What do they really know? Crocodilius Pontifex. What that means is that's the crocodile Pope. So here you have this demon statue that the Pope sits in front of, and they're making fun of it in cartoons with some alien language underneath, and there's the Pope literally speaks from the mouth of the snake, okay? The crucifixion of Jesus Christ is the devil's trophy, okay? The devil killed Jesus Christ, okay? And his crucifixion is the devil's trophy, and that's what the Catholics use as their main symbol of Catholicism, is the crucified Jesus, okay? The crucifixion of Jesus Christ is the devil's trophy.
Human traffickers, you think of that as an ancient crime. It's not an ancient crime. It's more prevalent today in this world, far beyond the United States. It's a world crime.
Why are 10,000 migrant children missing from Europe? This is a BBC News article that talks about over 10,000 children missing from Europe. This is in the last couple of years from all the refugees that moved from the Middle East to Europe. Well, guess what? They're going missing in Europe, okay? And you can actually see people being put into box trucks right there. So humans are being loaded into box carts. Unsuspecting people being loaded into box trucks to so many children missing. This is human trafficking. This is what the human trafficking is really all about. Now, the 10,000 migrant children missing, that's on top of the recorded, approved, official minimum million children that go missing each year, okay? So there's already 1 million children going missing. Here's another 10,000 on top of it, okay?
Material, what they called Lucifer. And I also was in contact with those circles, only I laughed at it because to me they were just clients. So, I went to places called Churches of Satan.
So now we are talking about Satanism.
Yes. So, I visited these churches, just as a visitor dropped by. And then they were doing their holy mass with naked woman and liquor and stuff. And it just amused me. I didn't believe in any of this stuff, and was far from convinced if any of this was real.
It was just a spectacle to you.
Yes. In my opinion, the darkness and evil is within the people themselves. I didn't make the connection yet. So I was a guest in those circles and it amused me greatly to see all those named women and the other things.
Ik vond het allemaal wel leuk. Al die blote vrouwen en al die dingetjes die daar speelden.
It was the good life. But then at some point, I was invited, which is why I'm telling you all this, to participate in sacrifices abroad. That was the breaking point. Children.
You were asked to do that?
Yes. And I couldn't do that.
Would you like to stop for a moment, by the way?
No.
Archaeologist gruesome discovery, mass grave filled with child sacrifices. Okay, this is it right here. The Satanists in the secret societies have to molest children as part of their initiation, and if they want to rank up in the satanic secret societies, they have to commit child sacrifice. Once they have, quote-unquote, proven they are worthy, they are then placed in positions of power. They get jobs in the media. They get placed in executive positions within the government, corporations, churches, etc. These Satanists have infiltrated every aspect of society and work for demons to corrupt, suppress, and control society. They divide and conquer and keep us ignorant so they can continue to have us war with each other and not realize we are being manipulated and controlled. So they can continue to... So you have these Satanists infiltrating society, okay? The children are molested. They're robbed of their purity at a very young age. They're brought into the secret satanic societies where they are then told that if they stick with the program, they keep their mouth shut, and they go up the initiation ranks, they will have a good life. They will be given good jobs. They can have their own families and be good standing members of society. But they are working in secret. They are told that if there's an issue regarding, for example, vaccines, they're to be public advocates standing up and saying vaccines are safe. Or if there's an issue about fluoride, which there's studies proving that fluoride is very dangerous and it is very toxic. And it's a neuropoison and it's very toxic. They're to be the people, the grassroots people working in secret. They're in the society at the town hall meeting. If there's a discussion about fluoride in the water, they're the people that will tell you that fluoride is safe and it doesn't cause learning development issues in young children. Harvard studies have proven that fluoride causes developmental issues, especially in young children, and it causes a reduction in IQ. Okay? So that's another issue. Since the 1970s, IQ points have been going down 7 to 10 points per generation, while obesity has been rapidly increasing. So people are literally getting dumber and fatter. And then you have stories about the space travel technology that's been suppressed, free energy technology that's been suppressed, true medical breakthroughs that have been suppressed and kept secret, anti-aging technology, anti-cancer stuff, all kinds of homeopathic remedies, vitamin B17 that cures cancer. There's so many things that are being suppressed, and at the same time, people are getting dumber and fatter, okay? And based on what we're seeing...
Archbishop, you knew it was a crime for an adult to engage in sex with a kid.
I'm not sure whether I knew it was a crime or not. I understand today it's a crime.
When did you first discern that it was a crime for an adult to engage in sex with a kid?
I don't remember.
When did you first discern that it was a crime for a priest to engage in sex with a kid who he had under his control?
I don't remember that either.
You know, we still have to ask questions about whether there was a system or a culture that was specific, peculiar to the church, that allowed these crimes to happen and to be covered up.
This is all about people whose lives were ruined because they took this priest and moved him here and moved him there and didn't tell anybody, and this is what people's lives are like boiled down to.
In here with what appears to be the largest abuse scandal to shake the American Catholic Church yet. After a 2-year investigation, a Pennsylvania grand jury today alleged decades of abuse of children by more than 300 men described as predator priests. It detailed the accounts of more than 1,000 children, but said there are likely thousands more victims. And the report says church leaders protected the priests in a cover-up that went all the way to the Vatican. Nikki Batiste is in Harrisburg.
Priests were raping little boys and girls, and the men of God who were responsible for them not only did nothing, they hid it all. For decades.
We are joined now by Pennsylvania Attorney General Josh Shapiro. Josh, good morning to you. Thanks for coming by.
Morning.
The grand jury there in Pennsylvania, it unearthed what's described as secret archives from the Catholic Church. And those archives reportedly show a systematic cover-up of child sex abuse in Pennsylvania. What else did those secret archives show? Who had access to those archives?
23 grand jurors met for 2 years in Pennsylvania. They unearthed over 301 predator priests, more than 1,000 victims, children in Pennsylvania. They found that there was not only widespread sexual abuse, rape of children, but they found that there was a systematic cover-up that went all the way to the Vatican. It's horrifying to think what these men of God did to these children, and then to have the cover-up that quite literally was very purposeful. They were doing it to shield these predator priests from law enforcement. So they would shield them, or they would pass them around for years to avoid law enforcement.
Well, Josh, do you have evidence that the Pope had knowledge or participated in a cover-up with regards to the Pennsylvania diocese?
We have evidence that the Vatican had knowledge of the cover-up. I can't specifically speak to Pope Francis, but I think the broader issues here with the Vatican knowing about this, with church leaders knowing about it, and the reaction you've seen, not just from Catholics, but Americans and people all across the globe, is just a fundamental disappointment and anger in institutions. We're seeing institutions, whether it's in Hollywood, whether it's at universities, whether it's in government centers, and certainly whether it's at the church, putting their own institutional reputation above the welfare of children. We will not tolerate that in Pennsylvania, and we shouldn't tolerate it anywhere. Child rape in 1970 is the same as child rape in 2018. It is never acceptable, and it is never okay to cover it up.
We bring in Mike Rezendes. He won a Pulitzer as a member of the Boston Globe Spotlight team, which, of course, uncovered a similar pattern of sex abuse within the Catholic Church in Boston. Michael, good morning.
Good morning.
You know, you look at this and you think, OK, this is Pennsylvania. It doesn't even include Philadelphia, but it's, you know, greater Pennsylvania. But the sense is that every state in America could have a report like this if they looked into it. Is that the case?
I think that's absolutely true. I think if there were an attorney general in every major city in America that wanted to investigate this, they would find pretty much the same thing. The story is the same, whether it's Boston or Pennsylvania or Tucson or Los Angeles or Ireland,
globally. Yeah.
Ireland, Australia, Chile. It's the same. The depravity is the same. The criminality is the same. And the cover-up's the same.
Talking about, Ann, about the cover-up, what I found among the most sickening details in this is that there was a cover-up, almost a playbook that the church hierarchy followed.
Yeah, the grand jury talks about that. They said it had several steps, including, first of all, you didn't talk about the specifics of what happened, the crimes. Instead, you referred to it as horseplay or wrestling, so you diminished it. Then when the priests were moved out of the parish, you didn't tell the parishioners why the priest was gone. He just disappeared. And then most of all, they said the rule was don't go to the police.
Well,
and that enabled this to remain a secret from the parishioners and to enable the church to do what it wanted with those priests.
I was surprised to see that some of the priests went and kind of confessed. And you thought at that moment maybe something would be done, but no.
A lot of Catholics, especially in this country, have been feeling really good about this Pope. However, is he doing enough with regard to these victims and some of the behavior of the Catholic Church in terms of a cover-up?
I think all the survivors would say emphatically no, he has not done enough. And this issue has the potential to mar Francis's legacy forever. He has not come to grips with this issue. 16 years after the Boston Globe Spotlight team report, the Vatican has done very, very little. A blue ribbon commission has been appointed. There have been promises to hold bishops accountable, but really, in a very substantive way, nothing has been done.
Indigenous groups in Canada are searching nationwide for more graves after a second discovery at a residential school last week. Officials found at least 600 unmarked graves at a former school for Indigenous children. This comes less than a month after officials found the bodies of 215 children buried at another school in British Columbia. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has vowed to dedicate resources to bringing these terrible wrongs to light. For more on this, I want to bring in Marie Wilson. She's a former commissioner for the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada. Marie, welcome. Thank you for joining us. So talk to us about the history of these schools and what conditions were like for the children there.
Well, I think in a short version, the residential schools were part of Canada's plan to expand into the West, and to assimilate and Christianize the Indigenous peoples who were already occupying all these lands and who were seen in a way to be obstacles to the progress that the country envisioned. And so residential schools for Indigenous children were put into law, Canadian law, in the late 1800s. There actually were some schools that were operating under the churches before that. And the last schools closed in 1996. So this was government policy for over 100 years. And it means that there were some 7 generations of Indigenous children who went through the schools and under duress, really, because while they wanted to have education for their children, they had not imagined that the children would be taken far away from home and that they would lose control of them as parents and be unable to protect them or supervise them, and therefore the children lived and experienced great harms. And that's what led to the creation of our Truth and Reconciliation Commission back in 2008.
Well, of course, now we know that graves have been discovered at 2 schools so far. Do you think that this means there are more graves that have yet to be discovered?
Well, it absolutely does. And one of the things that's very important to know is that in Canada, we had our Truth and Reconciliation Commission because there were still 80,000 living survivors of the residential schools at the time. And they took the government and the 4 national churches who ran the schools to court over the harms that they had experienced as children. And during our work, we had our commission function for 6.5 years. We recorded thousands of statements, and many of those talked about children who had died at the schools, things that they had witnessed by way of extreme abuses, children who had disappeared, in some cases, graves that they had been compelled to help dig. So we already knew that there were many deaths in schools, and indeed our work, even though our mandate did not include missing or lost children, we did it anyway because it kept coming up in the statements we were receiving from the survivors. And so we had already recorded 3,200 children who died in the schools, and we were aware of 1,000 others who died within the first year having gone home. But what we also said, and if I may just refer to Volume 4 of our report, basically talked about unfinished business, and it said that there was a huge amount of work yet to be done to find all of these missing children, because we knew that 3,000 to 4,000 was a very conservative estimate. And now what we are finding, some are calling it a discovery. What I've said repeatedly is no, it's an affirmation. It's a validation of everything that we have been told over and over again. And for whatever reason, we've chosen not to listen until now.
Right. These children were missing, and now we are discovering graves. So what is the process like of trying to, identify who these children are in these graves and bringing some closure to their families who obviously, at this point, they might be descendants, but at least who deserve to know who are in these graves and what the fate of their family members was?
Right. Well, I think the first thing is to know that we haven't found all the children yet. There were over close to 150 residential school sites, and we know that some of the burials happened not at the school sites. As we reported in our report, many of the places where there were graves are now have fallen into private hands. And so there's complicated jurisdictional work to be done on getting access to lands that are now in private hands. There are multi-levels of government involved, municipalities, provinces, and territories, which are like your states, and of course the federal government. But there are also extremely diverse protocols within and among and between the Indigenous peoples who are affected here. You can't just assume that if a discovery is made in a certain community, that community is the only one affected. Children were sent sometimes thousands of miles away to go to schools. And so their remains may be among those that are now being revealed. And it may not be the wish or indeed the practice of their particular nation to do exhumations, for example. So the work of identifying is going to be extremely important. There's absolute need that the documents that have not all been forthcoming be forthcoming so that we can do the cross-referencing to try to figure out whether deaths belong to certain families. We also know that many names were changed by the church. And so certain names that may be listed may not be recognized by the communities because the names have died out or because the names are so altered from what they originally were. And finally, just the sheer number of it all, we just have to know that this is going to be long, painful work, but it is essential work, and it's barely begun.
It is essential work. And Marie Wilson, we thank you so much for everything that you are doing to bring these truths to light and for joining us today to talk about it.
May I just say, though, especially for the viewers in the United States, it's a cautionary tale in a way for you as well. And because Canada knew these things and either ignored or didn't pay attention. In the United States, there's been extremely important work done by the American Boarding School Coalition. And I think your country needs to be bracing itself for the possibility that there will be similar experiences in the United States. And so to pay attention to that work as well as it unfolds.
Absolutely. Marie, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you for your ongoing interest. Much appreciated.
Let me say first off that this is a court of inquiry. It's not an adversarial court. It's a nonprofit educational event. And with enormous energy and intelligence, all of us have been brought together to try to bring out some of the aspects. So if I may, I have prepared an overview statement based on my work these many past weeks. And I want to just say that as a parent and as a patriot, I'm absolutely outraged by what we're allowing to happen to our children.
300,000 missing migrant kids, they call them UACs, unaccompanied alien children. The average age is 11, the median is 13. When it was George W. Bush's second term, do you know how many UAC apprehensions they had that year? 8,041 the entire year. Do you know how many they had in 2022 under Biden? So it didn't go to 20, not 30, not 40, not 50, not 100. 149,000 kids, average age 11, in 2022. And that chart continues around 100,000 every year. Kids.
Humanity is judged on how you treat the weakest member of the society. Let me say that although pedophilia, which says child love, has nothing to do with the abuse of children, these children are not just kidnapped and in some cases bred by families as a cash crop. We have people in the United States of America that breed children in order to sell them. And when they are sold, they come without birth certificates, which means it's easier to kill them and have no one ask where they are. We're also importing children by the plane load. Again, children who have no documentation. It's not just child slavery or child sex abuse. It's also child torture because you have adrenalized blood. You have the whole blood drinking ceremony of the satanic world. It's also the use of children for harvesting body organs. We'll have the Falun Gong testimony tomorrow. One of the reasons that the Falun Gong are so popular is because they're so healthy, so that you can harvest their body organs and get the very best. And then you have ritual ceremonies and ritual murder, as well as incidental murder.
So yeah. And then with the satanic ritual stuff, when did that begin? Around the same time as well?
That began when I was a little bit more older. It was kind of always lingering, but more 4th grade was when it really started. Okay. I would say.
And how was your life like at school and things like that?
Absolutely awful. So I was going from being taken to these rituals, watching sacrifices, just being up all night, and it was a calendar. I don't know if you know satanic cults. They go by a calendar, their own calendar. When the moon's aligned, different holidays like Halloween. They have a lot of different holidays, and based on that, they're like events and drum circle parties, whatever they want to call it.
I have found in my research in preparation for this court and all of the work that will follow that most organizations that end up being used to prey on children, Oxfam is a recent example, all of the United Nations organizations, the Boy Scouts of America, all of the child services agencies across the United States of America, they did not start out as organizations to prey on children. So that an organization that initially started out in the service of children becomes an organization that is in fact hunting children. And one of our distinguished commissioners has written an absolutely wonderful book called Child Hunters, which I recommend to all of you as a brief on this. I am concerned because most of these organizations dealing with children don't have counterintelligence protection. They're not vetting the people that are moving up in the ranks. And the government is allowing that to happen because he's such a loving uncle. Unbeknownst to people, Uncle John is actually a predator. We're not doing the counterintelligence at the local level, the province level, or the national level. It's absolutely essential that we begin to talk about this openly. And while we are not a law enforcement commission, we can in fact turn information over to law enforcement. We have a second concern, and the witness has really most magnificently outlined asset stripping. The core message from this asset stripping is that the same machine that strips children from families strips wealth from those who are being preyed upon. Not just whistleblowers. What husbands do when they turn over their money to intermediaries who are part of this system is mark themselves as a target. They might as well paint a target on their forehead because they have now become prey. Now, it's not my working assumption, but the working assumption yet to be proven that the totality of the children disappearing worldwide is toward 8 million people, toward 8 million children. In the United States of America, the acknowledged number, not counting the children being bred without birth certificates, not counting the children being imported without documentation, is between 600 and 800,000 a year. Now imagine Africa and East Asia and all these other locations. One of the problems with computers is they're too easily manipulated. In the United States of America, elections are decided before the first vote is cast. The electronic voting machines are essentially fraudulent machines, just as computers can record a fraudulent judgment that sticks with you forever, or make a child vanish.
Thing I say is the truth, make her disappear just like poof, then she's gone. Addicted, don't know.
I personally believe that the number we want to try to document is rising well beyond the official figures, and we have yet to learn what the actual number is.
The average age of sexual initiation for men is 16 years old, and for women it is 15 years old.
15? 15 and no husband. You must put those birthing hips to good use at once, lest your womb shrivel up and die.
So fast, but somehow always so slow. You never figured out the most powerful form of hate is by corrupting love, by twisting it into its negative.
You're not gonna make me hurt her.
Either you kill your daughter, or I kill you. Both ways, I win.
15 and a half, too young to experience independence like that. But if you think about it, back in the day, before wherever we are at this time in life, 15-year-olds were having children and starting households and raising kids and, running a whole entire whatever.
Within 2 years. And then they're murdered with impunity, or they're ritually murdered if that's what they've been bred for. So I think we need to document this. No one else has done this before in a systematic manner. This commission is rendering a signal service by seeking to do an overall view in the public interest.
The government is monitoring private phone calls, your children and my children's private phone calls, and tracking who their associates are.
Every means of communication in this country, everything is being watched by the federal government.
Tiny little microchips that were implanted in motherboards. Along with government targets, the chips were reportedly also installed in equipment destined for Apple during manufacturing and get-ins.
Okay, so as you can see, there's a lot of spying happening on this planet from the United States government and their private contractors, the NSA, the CIA, as well as, you've heard of the Illuminati and other secret societies who are infiltrated into corporations and into government contractors hired by the government. And based on their connections, they're actually able to access all of this information. So it's not just the government that's spying on everybody, but it's actual corporations that are able to spy on people and to sell people's information to other corporations and other unknown entities to literally spy on virtually everyone everywhere. Now, the spying is not preventing all of the bad things that are happening on this planet, from the human trafficking to the vast amounts of child molestations that are occurring within the Catholic Church and other organizations. There's a lot of really bad things happening on this planet. In the last 50 years, IQ points have been going down 7 to 10 points per generation. So literally people have been getting dumber and dumber. At the same time, obesity has been skyrocketing. So people are getting fatter and fatter. The population is getting dumber and fatter. Nobody is stopping this. Nobody's stopping the MSG, which is a neurotoxin which causes obesity, makes people sick. Nobody's stopping the fluoride, which is known to dumb people down. There's a Harvard study showing that fluoride significantly reduces the IQ of young children that are exposed, entire populations that are exposed to fluoride. For example, they're putting fluoride in the water, and any area where they're putting high levels of fluoride in the water, there are reduced IQs in those areas. So it's literally causing people to be dumbed down. The MSG and the aspartame are known to cause obesity and to make people sick. So all of this spying on everyone is not preventing these terrible things that are going into the food, in the air, and in the water. At the same time, they're not preventing the human trafficking, where there's countless cases of thousands upon thousands of children going missing. For example, there's an article from the BBC showing that over 10,000 children have gone missing in the last couple of years. There's human trafficking where people are being put into box carts, into trucks, and literally being shipped as if they're cattle to some unknown destination. Nobody's talking about any of this. So the spying is not preventing the terrible things on this planet from happening. The never-ending wars seem to continue. Nobody's talking about the wars in the Middle East, the vast devastation, the millions upon millions of people that are literally being misplaced or killed every year from all of these wars in the Middle East. Nobody's talking about that, even though they have the most advanced spy technology available. Somehow they can't seem to get that under control. It's not preventing crime or terrorism. As you heard in some of the testimony, there's a high probability that the spying is being used to manipulate and control, and not to prevent bad things from happening. It's being used as a tool for manipulation, control, and power. Okay, now the question is who's running the planet? Why are all these bad things being allowed to happen? Why are there secret societies that are deliberately poisoning the planet, killing people, and destroying the planet? And who's really running the show? That is what this series is about, finding out exactly what's happening on this planet. Stay tuned. I will also be diving deeper because I've been constantly investigating and looking for the answers and getting different articles and resources together to really present exactly what is happening on this planet. And it's actually very scary what's happening on this planet. We are in a lot of trouble. We need to unite as one peoples to fight the evil that is penetrating humanity. Form and spread the message. This planet is not safe. Stay tuned. I'll have more soon. Thanks for watching.